Hello and welcome to a original YouTube video here from Chris DeSantis Coaching and the Swim Brief. Today I want to do a follow-up to some of the other videos that I have been doing with regards to starts. I got a really nice question on my YouTube channel and I promised a video, and so here that video is. Essentially what I want to talk about here is some good examples of what I'm referring to in some of the other videos with regards to posture, because I think it's very important to define some of what's happening so that people can understand it and know what to look for. And I'm really excited to share that knowledge. So I spent a bunch of time looking for some good examples of doing it. Actually, I found some videos of Ben Proud, I think we're going to get to, and I want to show you some stuff with Vlad Morozov as well. Two guys who have done plenty on the international level, sprinting wise, and have, I think, in my opinion, executed starts extremely well, consistently across a number of occasions. You're going to notice if you watch all these videos that there's quite a few differences in the technique of the way that people do things. I tend to not get very caught up in the technique, that is the sort of little idiosyncrasies that somebody is using, but more so what you want to pay attention to is what kind of overall movement is all of that other stuff resulting in somebody's bodies, because bodies are different, right? And I think when you start to focus on technique, you start to think in terms of reverse engineering. Like, if I execute the same techniques, I will get the same result, but you have a different body. So what you're looking for, and it may take some creativity on your part as a coach or as an athlete, is you're looking for some of the things I'm going to point out in this video. So let me get right into some footage, and let's see if that turns out to be helpful. Let me just make sure my video is ready for you. Okay. So here's our man Vlad in lane 4. This video, like, the quality is pretty good, but you can see poor Michael Andrew. I'm not going to pick on him in this video, sitting right over here. But the one thing I will say is I've talked about the fact that being tall is a really big advantage, and body weight is certainly an advantage. I would guess, even though you can see Vlad looks a bit thicker over here, that he is probably lower in body weight than Michael Andrew. So Michael Andrew should have a natural advantage over him off the blocks. So let's see if we can scroll forward to, so they don't label the lanes here, but you can see Michael Andrew here. We're looking for this blue capped gentleman up here. That's Vlad Morozov. Now, by nature, when I'm coaching, I tend to, just pause it for a second, focus quite a bit on the posture that swimmers are standing with on the block. Now, does this actually matter? Well, yes and no. I mean, the posture that you're standing with, in my opinion, it will make it easier for you to move the right way later, because it simplifies a lot of the movements that you have to make, but it's not necessary. Remember that it's essentially just a technique. And what you're actually looking for is the posture result in the takeoff position and the entry position when somebody is leaving wall. So Vlad is somebody who I think has outstanding posture in this ready position. You can see a pretty good straight line here through, just a little bit of curvature at the back of the hips. It's very, very hard to eliminate all of that curvature. So he's doing a good job standing, getting ready to leave from the blocks. But the real important part of this is going to come when the starting gun actually goes off and the position he gets into to take off from the block. So we're playing this at quarter speed, just in case you're wondering. So here's his actual takeoff position. Now everybody's set. And it feels like a long time, but it's just the, so here we go. So we start. You can see, again, another technique that he's applying is he is jerking his head up off the start, and he's pulled down a little bit with it. But you can see that even as his legs are falling forward, you just go forward a couple frames here into a takeoff position. You can see how he is lifting his spine. The movement in your upper body is almost like a deadlift, okay, movement, if you were to like take it into a weight room and lay it out vertically. So, you know, you have this nice, you should have this nice straight spine, and he hasn't begun. You can see his weight is still on his foot. So he hasn't actually begun to really drive off the front of that block yet in this. So here he's, go back just a little bit. Oh, there he is when he's driving off the block. I would say the takeoff position is probably a little bit too early for him, but he's got this beautiful line going straight out over the water. And what that's going to do for him is it's going to give him a really good speed in the air. And you know, you can't put a price on how important having that speed is, because you're going to be slowing down. The 50 free is just a controlled slowing down. Okay, you're flying through the air, you're moving so many times faster than you are swimming in the water, but the speed that you start swimming at is a downgrade from whatever speed you start flying through the air at. So the more speed you carry through the air, the more that you can transition into the water, the more that you can transition into the water, the higher speed you start at. And then you, even as you begin to lose speed, right? If you start from a higher speed, it's going to have a knock-on effect. And that's why I think people, again, I'm going to get on my high horse about starts. People really misunderstand starts because they go, oh, well, it's, you know, it's only, like they break it down to reaction time. Well, if you have a good reaction time, you're a tenth faster. Who cares? Who cares if you're a tenth faster? Well, they're not thinking about the big picture with the start, because there are all sorts of second order effects of a good start. And flying through the air straight, greater velocity in the air, greater transition into the water, greater starting speed. It's going to then, by nature, it's going to influence your finishing speed. Another factor that has to do with other competitors, and you're going to see it in this race, is it is easier to swim fast when you don't have people right next to you. So if you can differentiate yourself off the start, then it's easier to maintain speed through the rest of the race. So there's all sorts of second order effects when it comes to starts. He's done an excellent job setting up this sort of takeoff phase of the start. And let's see what the entry is. And you can see he's got this kind of like hand pump. You know, some people that I coach will go like, oh, Chris, you told me not to do that. Okay. Again, I'm telling specific people that I coach not to do this because this is a technique that I don't believe will work for them. Okay. I think there's a good chance that it works for Vlad Morozov. One of the reasons being he has an exceptional amount of time in the air to execute it. But you can see his arms have actually crossed, they're sort of pushing back and they're past his knees. I advocate often for a little bit of a faster hand movement out here because I think it helps a lot of people get into the position that Vlad ends up getting into here in the air. But he collects himself really well. He's got his hands and his head in line well before he's about to enter the water. And you can see here, he's going to be one of the last people to enter the water. This guy is going to be behind him, I think, but he's quite a bit shorter in his jump if you just look proportionally across the pool. Okay, so he's entering there, and you can see that his angle is different as well. Watch, you see how the angles of these legs, how they're not necessarily following the angle that they were. If you just spool back, you do your own spool back on the video. Anytime you see ankles up like this, it's evidence of probably an entry that was a little too deep and the swimmer's having to adjust and pull up underneath the water almost immediately to prevent themselves from going down. If you nail this entry just right, there should be very little adjustment in the front. And that way you don't slam the brakes on your speed. So he's taken that posture, he pushes it off, he's driven it right in to start this thing. Oh, this thing's an absolute beauty of a start. And look at what it results in for him here as he breaks out. Okay, he's going to have clean water by far to his left and almost to his right with Andrew. Okay, if we just set it up to normal speed here so you can see the wonder of somebody sprinting, he just plows ahead from there. Okay, you can see he's just, because he started at a faster speed, these guys are probably decelerating at the same rate as he is, but he's actually looks like he's pulling away, right, as he finishes this race. And there he is, 21.27, quite a nice performance. Let's see if we can get back to a Ben Proud swim. Okay, here's one that I found. And we shall play this back at half speed, at least until we get to the part where they're about to start. This is quite recent. This is a short course performance from Proud, and Proud has some other techniques that I think are worth mentioning, especially in the space of posture. So I wanted to show that to you as well. One of them is what you sort of just saw. You don't see it very well in this video because that wasn't him. That was somebody with a black cap. So he has a habit of standing straight up when everybody else is sort of hunched over. And so he has a much longer transition from the, you know, like pre-starting position to the about to go position. And that's a technique that works quite well for him. And I think there's some advantages to it. Globally, you know, it's not good to spend a lot of time in this very tense sort of hunched over position in terms of what's going to follow from your start. You can see actually probably even in comparison to Morozov spinally, he's very strong here. His head is not in line with the rest of his body. Is that same press back, but you see that lifting motion with his upper body in comparison to some of the people he's competing against who are still angled as they're driving off the block. They're still angled downwards with their upper body, whereas Proud is angled straight out. And somebody really attempting something out here in lane 7. I'd have to scroll back to see who that was. Oh, no surprise, it's a Hungarian. Okay. Guys, don't copy Hungarians when it comes to technique. Just my 2 cents. Although he does have quite a good 50 fly, that man. Underwater shot here. And you can see on the breakout, we didn't get to really see very much of it. But again, Proud has this advantage of clean water to his side. So that's just a couple examples of that stuff that I wanted to show you guys in relation to starts. I hope that's helpful to you in your own starts journey. I could talk about this stuff all day. So appreciate everybody taking the time to listen. If you want to hear more, if you got questions, if you got stuff that you're curious about, I'm going to be putting a little bit more effort into some of this stuff on the YouTube channel. So I would appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. Okay. I'll be active in the comments, responding if you have stuff you want to talk about. And let me know if you have somebody that you'd like to see a video on of their start, breaking down some of the techniques that they're using, and then some of the overall form-wise things that are happening with their start. I'll be happy to do it. See you soon.